Hello all, welcome back. So in our Selenium with Java series, we are looking into the TestNG details, right? So in our previous session, we have seen the TestNG basics, like why should we using the TestNG, what are the features available in an high level, we have seen that. Now, starting from this session onwards, we will be seeing a little bit more into depth of TestNG, okay? So in this session particularly we will be focusing on to the after and before annotations. Okay, so just to recap, so these are the TestNG annotations that TestNG provides, which I already explained about each of these annotations, right? But we did not see a demo or a kind of a visualization of how we can guide the manner the test cases will be executed. So all of these annotations we will see in detail today. Okay. So for this, I will be moving to my IntelliJ IDE where I've created one after before one package, and there are two sets of test cases are there. This is the class that is test case 1, which is noted as test case 1 or TC1, and which is having like two test cases because these are annotated as at the rate test, so that's why these are the test cases. The same thing, I've created another class TC2, which is again having two or more multiple test cases. You can even have multiple test cases. You can mark it as TC4 and you can just write anything that you need. Okay, make sure that the method names should be unique as the method signature says, okay, in Java. Fine. Now, at the rate test, it's basically the actual test case which we are going to execute it, right? Now, let's talk about few of the before and after annotations, right? One simple annotation is method. So, after method and before method, right? So, what I'm going to do, I'll copy paste one thing. So, here this before and after method. So, yeah. So here you can see one of the use case where you can say that for each of these test cases, the minimum requirement is that the browser should be launched, right? So why should we writing the same steps in all of our test cases? We can just have a before method and after method, which just will write the logic to open the AUT or the browser with the URL. After the particular test case will get executed, you run the after method which will close that particular browser or the application, right? So that you need not to write the same logic in each and every test case. Okay, so that is what after method and before method does. Now this basically will execute before or after anyone will execute for each of your test cases. Okay, so here are actually two test cases are there. So before method will run two times, after method will run again two times after each of these test cases executed. Okay, so let me just right click and run this TC1. So I have not implemented any Selenium logic in this. This is just I'm giving what you call an overview or a demo about this. For sure, we will be seeing in detail and we will integrate the Selenium test cases with the TestNG to create a framework. But at this moment, let's first try to understand what is TestNG. Okay, so as you can see here, let me just grab it. So the test case which says that the test case login logic, right? So you can see test case login logic, but before to this my before method will be executed. So that's how it executed. Open UT, then it just executed some login logic, then it closed my browser. The same thing before running the another test case, before method executed, and then after executing this particular method or the actual test case, the after method executed. So two times this before and after method executed. Fine, very simple. Okay, now what about this test case 2? Now when I execute this, before method and after method will not execute it. The reason is that this particular before method and after method is very limited to this particular test case, which is defined by the Java scope. So if it is defined within this TC1, it is only accessible inside this class only. Okay, now to make it accessible in all of your test cases, like test case 2, because I have to do like this, right? Again, copy paste the same logic and then put it into this particular class, which is tedious, right? Let's think about this. You have, like, let's say that um, hundreds of test cases are there. Now, do you really need to copy paste in all of your TC1, TC2 up to TC200 the same logic? Do we need to do? Not really, right? That is difficult and time consuming. So for this, what we can do, we can use the Java oops concept, okay, which is called as inheritance. So what I will be doing, I'll create one new Java class, which I will say that base test, okay. Now let's make the T as capital, and here what I'm going to do, I'll copy the same before method and after method. Now what I'm going to do, these things are not necessary now, okay? Now let's comment these things. Now the question comes, how do this TC1 and TC2 will accept these particular test cases, or I mean the before method and after method? Simple logic is to inherit those things, right? So I will say extends and I will say base test, okay? Base test. The same thing I will be doing for the TC2 as well, and it's not limited to these two classes. As many as the TC or test case classes you are creating, you can keep on inheriting the base test. Now what will happen? Let's execute this TC2 and see what happens. Now here you can see the before method and after method executed three times. First one, second one, and third one. The same thing after method as well. Okay, so that is the beauty of inheriting the what you call base test. Now anything, any other after or before annotations, which is very common to all of your test cases, you need not to specify in each of your test cases. Okay, directly you can mention into the base test, and these test cases will inherit that based on this particular statement. Okay, let's give it a try. Now here I will be writing before class and after class. Okay, let's give it a try and see what happens. So for this, let me copy paste, and here I'll just write like this, where I'm going to, let's say that before running each of your class, let's open the Excel sheet. I mean, that's kind of one, what you call, one of your requirement. The same thing I will do one thing after class, and here let me annotate this one is after class. Okay, and here I will say close Excel. Okay, close Excel, and I will say close Excel sheet. Okay, and this should be after class method. Let's import this one. Okay, now let's execute this TC1, and you will see the before class, after class, before method, after method, everything will be executed based on this particular at the rate test annotation. So let me right click and run. So as you can see here, the before class and after class executed just once only, because I am executing the class itself. So before executing the whole class, before class will be executed. Inside that, before method will execute two times, because I have two TestNG test methods are there. Okay, so that is how it is defined. Now you might be asking that, okay, now you have two different test case classes are there, right? Now we are executing individually. Can I execute the TC1 and TC2 together so that the base test will be inherited in both of these test classes and also will print the details, whatever we have mentioned? Yes, you can do that. And for this, let me do one thing. I will be taking help of the TestNG XML. So I'll create a new file and I will note it as testng.xml, and then let's copy paste the same TestNG XML which I have shown in our previous session. And here you can see I'll just mention few of the things, and here let's do one thing. This after before is there, right? I'll put it inside TestNG learning. Okay, refactor, and I will say TestNG learning dot after method after before, and this is my package, and this is the TC1. Okay, the same thing I will have another one here, and this should be TC2. Okay, now if I execute this test case or this testng XML, both of the classes will be executed and you will see long output. Let me just explain this one in detail. So let me just copy paste into a notepad. So let me open this one. Okay, now let's split it into different stuff. Okay, so here what I will do, so I'll split like this. Okay, now let's see. So how many test methods are there for the first class? So you can see this is one test method. You can see this is my one test method. This is my another test method is there, right? Let's split this one as well. Now you can see class will be executed only once. Okay, this one and this one. So this entire is the TC1. Okay, before method executed for this particular test case, the same thing for this test case before method is executed. Okay, that's pretty much it because there are only two test cases are there. Okay, and after class before class will be executed only once irrespective of how many test cases are there. The same thing, let's split this one here as well. You will see only one before class and after class, but there are actually three different sets of data is there. This is my first test case, this is my second test case, this is my third test case. That's why before and after method executed three times, and this is my TC2. Okay, so that is how you can execute multiple TestNG classes by using the testng.xml file. Fair enough? Okay. Now we have got into the class level. First we went to the testng test level, then to the class level. Now let's go to the test level. Now test level is nothing but that is something we call it as before test and after test, right? And then we are left with the before shoot and after shoot. Let me do one thing again. Let's play with our this base test because everything we should be writing in this only, and because we have understood these things, let me just comment these things out so that it won't give a big output for us. Okay, so let's copy paste for the before shoot and after shoot as well. Okay, so let me copy the entire shoot, and here you can see, so before shoot will execute for this testng test level. You can see I have only one shoot, so it means that irrespective of how many classes I am writing, the before shoot and after shoot will only execute once only. Fair enough, that is that simple. Now before test and after test, you can see, so just I've written, let's say that your test cases need some database connections, you can use it at the test level. So how many classes you are executing here doesn't matter. Before test will execute once here and another time to this test. Let's see that. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let's run this, and let me just copy this one. Let's go to this notepad, and here you can see. Now let's first try it out, split it out depending on the test level, right? So here you can see. Okay, so here there are three test cases. For the second class we had only three test cases. Now here you can see we had two test cases here, but the before test executed once here and once here. The same thing after test here and after test here, because this particular test doesn't depend on how many test cases are there. It depends on this before test and after test depends on how many test tags are there or how many test elements are there. If you are creating another test here, let's say that another test here, then this before test and after test will execute three times. Okay, so that is how it is defined. Okay, and shoot level, because we have only one shoot element in this particular XML, I have only once executed this one. Okay, so whatever logic that you will be writing in this base test, I mean inside this, those things will be performed in real time based on this output. Okay, so that is how you need to make sure that where exactly, I mean which situation you need what actually. So do you really need the browser to be opened for all of these test cases, then you can put it in before class. So that is why I have given couple of examples here. So normally after shoot and before shoot, you need to see what else predefined stuffs you need or the prerequisites. The same thing, opening and closing DB, opening and closing your browsers, Excel sheet, or you want to what you call set up your configuration files. So all these things, or let's say that you want to load few of the test data, you can do all these things by using these annotations, and these are really handy. It will isolate all of the prerequisites from your actual test case, so that you can focus only onto the test case level only. Now once you set up your base test with all these annotations, you are all good to go with how many number of test cases classes you want to create. You can create as long as this base test you are extending to them. Okay, so that is how you can guide the way you want to run your test cases. There are a lot more features out there, it's just not limited to this particular base test. We will even see lot of these features based on these advantages or features of TestNG. Okay, so stay tuned and do subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't. Okay, so thank you guys for watching.